The trailer seemed like an action movie to me, but it was a teaser, and again, E3's right around the corner. I'm sure we'll see more, but the trailer showed a bunch of things that you noticed that I didn't because you saw a lot of behind-the-scenes information. You noticed a few things in the trailer, specifically the way squads were working and how she respawned back on him. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and in a second, I think we're going to try and grab the trailer. I literally like have a page and a half on just that trailer.
Okay.
But why don't I know Jean-Luc has it up. Why don't we just kind of slowly inch our way through it? Because Aaron, despite that being clearly not straight gameplay, it was scripted and there was HUD on it. But as to reiterate again, there are things that trailer is representing that you can do in the game. So why don't we just run it? So there's a horse head.
Okay, let's just, can we just stop at times? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is let's go a little bit further. So this is a horse head statue. You see like teddy bears and loot. This is very likely tank customization. It's probably part of their live service, so they have like timed events where you can pick up special customizations. The tank is disabled.
You get, like, trophies and ornaments for your tanks?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Eagle hood ornament? That's sick.
Customizable tanks.
Eagle claw.
I'm going to be the most ridiculous, flamboyant looking person.
Hell yeah.
You should be. The tank, by the way, is disabled, which is something they have had free. So that here, we'll go ahead and stop here. So that explosion in the hallway was showing the physics in the game. So you see some of this in Battlefield 1, but it blows and the chandeliers fly everywhere. That's part of their like destruction system, and you'll see it in a second again with the tank, where the tank goes through the house.
And they mentioned that you yourself, the player, will get blown away like a few feet, right?
Yeah. So you'll see a lot of the stuff that I loved from like Bad Company, where there's like dirt in your face or you're getting rocked by explosions.
Yeah.
So the tank's been disabled. They run in the house. We immediately see customization here. You have your female protagonist. This is multiplayer, by the way. She's got a hook hand. You see like face paint, war paint,
dope jacket,
dope jackets. They immediately go into close quarters combat. By the way, she's British and she's rocking a Thompson SMG.
He's got a silencer, a suppressor of some sort on his.
Yeah, so go back. You missed that part too. Right here, on the left, bullets are coming through the walls. So this is a new feature in the game, whereas before you could only shoot through doors in Battlefield 1.
Or remove the whole wall with a tank, right?
Exactly.
Like contextual bullet holes is pretty big.
So it's even more like maybe like Rainbow Six Siege. So the LMGs in particular can go through walls, which is really cool. You can just rake walls when we think there's people in here. This guy's in a new down but not out state. So
the revive system. Yeah, you want to talk about that?
So in Battlefield 2, everything is based around your squad. So when you go down, you go into an over-the-shoulder of your squad mates. And you never get kicked back to that orbital screen unless your entire squad gets wiped out. So
hold on a second. Do we see what's on his back right now? He's got a fucking samurai sword.
He's got a guy. You're absolutely
I'm so sorry. I just noticed
He's got a damn sword.
All right. So sorry.
Okay,
the down but not out stage.
Good eye, Mike. Go back.
That might rival the hook hand.
Yeah. Okay.
Sick.
So down but not out state, you have two buttons that you can press. One of them is call for help and one of them is give up.
Okay.
This gets even crazier because actually now people in your squad can revive you. Not just the medic.
Everybody.
Everybody can revive you. But
That's so cool.
They can't give you health. Only the medic can give you health, and only the medic can revive people outside of your squad.
That's cool. Okay.
So everything right now keeps you in your squad. Also, it's funny, when the lady got shot in the beginning and went down, that was what she was in the down but not out state. She wasn't actually dead.
Oh, okay.
Also, I don't know if you mentioned that apparently you can drag, or did you say that already?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is huge. So I like to think of the revive system incorporated with this new mechanic. This is confirmed they're going to do this?
Confirmed, yeah.
They're going to allow players to drag and pull a downed player like behind cover and then administer a revival. Because if you're not a medic, it's going to take you a lot longer. You're going to want to get your downed player out of the line of fire, if that makes sense. So you can drag downed players.
Which is so cool. Like, I've always wanted to be able to drag players behind cover before reviving.
Yeah.
Jean-Luc will have to go all the way back to the house, so we're just going to call out a lot of stuff in here. We see a little bit further back, we see an execution from behind as the player comes up the stairs. So that's returning is the like instant execution from behind. Then we look over, this dude looks out the window and we see a tank rolling on the house.
This trailer's pretty cool.
With destruction. So this is part of their new fluid movement system.
Horse nose, go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about this. This is really cool.
Okay, so in Battlefield 1, it's super awkward. You run up to windows and you gotta whack at them with your shovel and hopefully get through. No more. So now you run up to objects, you press a button, and you do things like leap through second story windows and roll. This is an actual feature in the game. This is the rear prone. So the developers love prone. They like talked about this for half the time. So you can now fall on the ground and crawl backwards, or like fall on the ground and slide sideways. And there's full 360 degree movement from the prone position. So you can do this. You can crawl backwards and shoot, or like run and slide and crawl backwards and shoot. So this like running and jumping out a window and rear sliding, that's all in multiplayer.
Man, or like, I don't know if you could do this, but can you imagine like doing a rear prone jump down a stairway as you're firing backwards?
Like Trinity crashing through that window in the first
That's
Matrix?
exactly right.
Hugo Weaving chasing you? There's something right there too in the background, the towing.
Actually, so we're not even done with that scene back there.
This is just so Private Ryan, by the way.
Keep going back
with
to the
Burns, Ed Burns.
So the tank coming through the house, they have a new destruction system on houses. So it's not canned at all. It has physics. When a tank goes through a house, all the debris will go in the direction that the tank goes. But they also said there's crazy stuff. Like if a tank shell hits a house, it'll blow it. But if a tank shell goes through a window and blows inside the house, that's a different type of explosion. And it'll blow stuff like out of the house, out of the back of the house.
Damn.
And after this house is destroyed, then we're going to get into the fortification system where players can then rebuild that house with sandbags. So here's light vehicles, stop right here. So that is the towing system.
Oh yeah, this is so, sorry, go.
Okay, so as part of the fortification system, teams have headquarters. And in those headquarters, there are tanks and things that you can tow. So like, what is this, like an 88 flat gun?
Sure.
So you can go to the back of the base, go hook up like a flat gun to a tank and drive off, and your buddy can be in the flat gun shooting while you're driving.
Right.
So that's so cool because you have people building up these fortifications, which we'll see in a second. And then if your team gets like held up on a fortification, you can go back to your headquarters, grab a buddy in a flat gun, and go like reduce it, which is so cool. Which also means you're never going to know where the flat guns are on the map because people can tow them.
I mean, if you can imagine too, if this is like a towing feature, whether it's at launch or down the road, you could probably tow other things, right?
Or
like
take off and land in planes, maybe, if they're gonna introduce that like slow movement aspect.
We hope. I mean,
or like a glider, like like D-Day Invasion, where they had gliders with like jeeps and stuff, and those things. Like that could be something down the road. Like if that's a prominent feature, right? Like this towing mechanic.
That tank also had like a wood log strapped to the side, which is more customization.
Yeah. So you brought this up. This is there's an event happening maybe, and this is if you can imagine the middle of the map. If this is a levolution type thing, or like the bridge blows, like this seems to be very pronounced action here, right? Like jeeps and vehicles flying off of the bridges here.
So they didn't specifically say a levolution, but in concept art we've seen this bridge hole.
Yeah. So
I think there's a good chance that was a levolution event. If you go back just real quick to the plane crashing and the dude getting thrown.
It's a Messerschmitt Bf-109, by the way.
So this is, Rob's our air guy.
Oh, I can't wait.
So this is likely physics in the game. Again, this is a representative trailer. Like, we haven't actually played the game, so I can't confirm any of this hands-on. But the dude getting tossed, and then the airplane lands and the pilot gets out. If this is in the game, and I'm not confirming this part because they didn't talk about planes, but that'd be sick if you could crash land in this game, and get out.
Dude, that's a really strong point, because that is something that is, I would say, has never been done before. Like, and that's also, and Aaron, we talked about this like to death, which is like in a lot of Battlefield games, and I would say arguably since 4, there has been a separation of air game and ground game, where you feel a little disjointed. You're just doing some strafing runs, and then you're getting shot down eventually by more or less another pilot, an enemy pilot. Here, opposed to just like ejecting, like you could have this intense moment of like crash landing, right? Yeah. If you don't have a chute or something like that, like that could be really fun. Like, I don't know.
I hope that's in the game. So let's stop here.
And here's that camouflaging mission.
Yeah. Let's go back to the gun on the ground. So there's a lot going on in this shot here. So first of all, this is part of the Scarcity system. So everything in this game is tied into getting players to play objectives, which is something we talked about being a problem earlier. So the fortifications get you attached to actually defending points, and then the squad system has you, and actually Rob, you mentioned this before, you have to you join a game in a squad, and then you have to choose to go solo.
Yeah.
So you run out of ammo in this game. This game has ammo scarcity. You actually run out of ammo between lives. You don't get your ammo back, all your ammo back, when you spawn. So this gun that got picked up, there's only 10 bullets in it. So immediately this person...
No, 10 out of 50.
Yeah, sorry, 10 out of 50. So like maybe one drum, right?
Right.
So this person immediately needs a support class person around, or they need to get to an objective to pick up ammo. This does look like Conquest Assault, by the way, with the tickets on top, and they're trying to take a couple of points, A, B, and C. Okay, so they pick up a gun. It only has like one drum of ammo in it. Stop here. We can see the fortification system in the game. So this is a capture control point. Those sandbags are in the game. So the players are there physically building this fortification on a control point.
And that's something like everyone can do, is build... what's the list? You can build sandbags. You can put up boards. Trenches.
Barbed wire.
Was it tank teeth?
Tank teeth.
Yeah. So was that for like anti-mines and stuff like that? Is that the idea behind tank teeth?
Yeah, to stop tanks.
Just so you don't get bulldozed.
Okay. Actual fortifications, not something you put on a tank. Got it.
So these are at set points on the map. They're not like completely dynamic. They are at all the major control points on the map. We see a flat gun that probably got, a howitzer cannon that probably got towed up there.
Yeah.
We see an engineer with a rocket.
Yeah.
But so this is real. This is in the game, and this is being built by players while they're playing.
And that was something in that stream they touched on, which was one of the gripes or problems with Battlefield 1 was that, again, that San Quentin Scar. Thank you, God.
Yeah, we mentioned this when you were playing earlier.
Yeah,
too.
like there are moments where, say the behemoth comes in because the other team is just getting stomped on. It comes in like halfway through the match and can just level the entire town. So when you're going to try to cap a flag, you don't have any obstacles or cover around you. You're just prone, and everyone can see you. So that's what they're kind of offering as a solution, right? Is like putting up these fortifications.
I really like that. Like instead of saying let's decrease destruction, they're like, no, let's keep destruction as it was, if not increasing on it, but let's give people a chance to reverse it if they want it, if they so choose. Do support classes have more rebuilding options, or is everybody pretty much like sandbag capable?
So what they said was anybody can build.
Okay.
But you can also specialize classes in this game now, so it's possible that as a support class you may be able to build more than, and I'm speculating
anti-tank stuff.
Have a shorter cooldown, right? Or something like that.
That's cool. Or builds faster. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very likely. The only specific specialization they actually said, as an example, was an assault class who could specialize as anti-tank, which actually did have me, it was one thing that had me a bit concerned, that maybe like they're talking about making squads and classes rely on each other, but then they said something that kind of watered down assault class a little bit.
Because Battlefield 1 had that. They had the anti-tank gun, rocket gun capability, right?
For assault class,
Yeah.
They did.
There wasn't really an engineer class.
But it hardly had enough rounds to actually stop a tank, so you needed a support guy next to you dropping ammo.
Right.
Okay, let's dive back in.
Yeah.
Okay, so this gun is fully customized. You can see it has a leaf camo. It has a muzzle brake. It probably has like a custom stock.
It's got a bottle opener.
So this is part of, again, they're like, yeah, it probably does have a bottle opener. This is all part of their fluid movement system. So that assault class player, he just picked up and threw a grenade back. That wasn't his grenade.
Oh, I missed that.
So that was, if you want to go back real quick, that was part of probably a specialization. But that was a toss back. So it comes in, that's an enemy grenade.
Oh, damn. Cool.
And we can also see like the large battle going on in the background. A lot of this part is showing the prone system. So this is all the moves you can do while you're prone. He's like crawling, spinning. His gun is constantly up while he's prone.
Yeah. Can we rewind that once? I mean, whatever, it's a video game, but this guy is one-handing an MG42 crawling, getting kills.
It's
It's awesome.
I mean, just this trailer alone seems like tonally so much different. Like World War I, they went so somber and macabre with it. Like,
right.
Especially the intro of the game, again, we haven't played this, but the intro of the game was you fighting that impossible battle and everybody dies when you switch between the characters.
Right.
This one seems like they're self-aware. I mean, we saw a samurai sword, we saw this girl. What is that, by the way?
Is that a cricket
bat? It's a cricket bat with barbed wire around it.
I mean, I think, I think people were fans of the series, right? I think I was hearing some people talk about like, oh, people really wanted another Bad Company. Maybe this is kind of tonally pulling some of that, frankly, just like fun,
right?
Into the game.
Even them, like saying, like being self-aware enough to say he's like. Or what did she say? She's like, I'm not dead or something. What did she say when she gets shot at the beginning? I forgot what she said. She's like, someone says she's hit. She's like, no, I'm not, or whatever. I don't know.
She responds.
Yeah, she just got shot in the stomach and she's talking.
And she's got a claw hand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
To give credit where it's due, a lot of this came in Battlefield Hardline. It was contextual call-outs, crazy melee weapons, a lot of things that particularly mean that players know what's going on without relying on voice chat. So the characters in the game contextually call out what's happening at any given time.
There was, I mean, I guess I didn't really consciously consider it, but that in the background that was like DC-10 planes, like paratroopers jumping out.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. So what they mentioned for their grand operations mode was that there are certain maps where you spawn in the plane, and you choose when to jump out onto the map. Okay. So it's not just spawn here; it's actually paratroopers.
Okay, like how you enter a battle royale game.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I think we talked about it before. Like, it can work, you know. But like, at least it's not. From what it looks like, it's not just here's a battle royale mode.
Right.
It's like here is a way of looking at the trends and incorporating it into a Battlefield game. That seems neat in a way.
Instead of stealing the mode out, or instead of borrowing the mode outright, it's like stealing what makes those games appealing and what can also work for Battlefield. Like the survival aspects, being able to drag people, being able to revive anybody, but the medic being more important in that respect and also helping other squads. It does seem like there's more focus on not dying, which sounds obvious, but like again, in Battlefield 1 I felt like, and in Battlefield 4 and Hardline, I felt like that sentiment was lost. I felt like I was just more worried about kills. This one seems like it's more about surviving so you can help your squad. If what they've said in this trailer and what you saw yesterday are any indication.
Yeah, like to further on that, like that kind of revive system, right? Like they seem to be really heavy-handed in the idea that like anyone can be revived by anyone. It doesn't have to be just the medic. The medic can just do it very fast.
And heal.
Yeah.
And heal.
Yeah.
And there was another, I think they mentioned that no longer like from Battlefield 1, which was from an aesthetic standpoint pretty neat, but you're no longer getting warped back out to that bird's eye view, right? Like when you mentioned earlier, when you die, you are behind your squad mates. So it's very much about keeping that squad alive and being with your team. Again, you're spawning in and you're not solo. You have to like opt out manually. You're automatically in a squad. That's neat. Like I want to see that.
I mean, the survival aspect also goes back to the ammo scarcity. We saw just before the woman saved you at the end that you had 19 rounds left. The player in the trailer had 19 rounds left before she knocked the dude in the face with a cricket bat. And then again, that encourages you to rebuild those fortifications. It encourages you to actually fight around those objectives. And presumably, you said that you heard that yesterday that, you might have already mentioned this, forgive me, we were talking about it a lot, but the tanks have to return to objectives to restock.
That was something that we hoped would be in the game.
Gotcha, okay, sorry.
So they only talked about that. That's true for soldiers. So soldiers will run out of ammo more quickly, and they must be around either like squad mates or go to objectives. So everything is designed to not let you just go roaming and like screw off and not pay attention to what's going on.
I hope the same rings true for vehicles, because then that would take away. A gripe I had with Battlefield 1 was vehicles sometimes felt overpowered. I mean, they're vehicles, it makes sense. If you had an anti-tank gun, it was an easy way to take them out. But I feel like if they did run out of ammo, they had to return to objectives. Imagine how like treacherous and scary that would be to be really far from your nearest objective, run out of your last shell, be like, shit, we have to get back here for this final push. So everybody has to wait for these vehicles to get back. Meanwhile, there's people like that know that you're going back to restock, so they're just trying to take out the vehicles while they're defenseless. That would be really cool. Again, that's just like pure speculation and like wishful thinking, but I think it would be pretty awesome. Like, increase the reliance on like worrying about your ammo and the objectives, which they're already like reinforcing.
Yeah, and to reiterate on the idea of like preserving objectives is what you just kind of made me realize is if this does pan out the way I am thinking about it is preserving the front lines in a way, right? Like you're keeping people coming back to objectives because I think sometimes like even like the Battlefield 1 match we were playing, it just becomes kind of like a mix where it's almost like a circle, right? Of like objectives going down. Oh great, now they took A. I gotta go back to A. Well, now I lost D. Like maybe that's gonna keep people coming back to these objectives, so they're not just so barren all the time. Because you spawn and then you leave, right?
Yeah.
You're falling back.
So actually, if you go to the end of this match in the trailer, you can see that they're losing a point behind them.
Oh really? Well, that's just whoa.
Oh, does A start to get taken? Oh, F.
They start to lose D again in the middle of this.
Yeah.
There's more reason to hold on to them now outside of points. It seems like that's their intent.
One of the biggest.
I love that.
Yeah. One of the biggest criticisms of people I know who play a lot of Conquest is that people just take the points and then ditch.
Yeah.
And so this gives you a reason and an investment in the points, which is really important.
You're almost like turtling, like in an RTS when you're actually like I can see myself being a support player who takes his point and is like, you guys go. I'm just gonna hold this for the rest of the match and have fun doing that. I'll build up anti-tank defenses. I'll get an anti-tank weapon. I've got my cricket bat. I'm fine. My samurai sword.
So what just happened there looked good on screen, if we can show the execution. But it's kind of funny, actually, from the player's perspective. What's happening here is the player goes down, and if you go back a little bit further, she's dead and she squad spawns. So this poor chap.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So she pops out his butt right there, plus 20, and this dude's in the middle of an amazing execution. You might be that guy, and he got squad spawn killed. So she squad spawned and then meleeed him while he was meleeing somebody else. So they did show, actually, to be fair, like this might just be for this trailer, they showed danger spawn lockout, so maybe you couldn't do that in the actual game. Maybe they just did that here.
Okay, I don't know, it just immediately reminds me of like Halo co-op when you had to respawn on someone when they were safe. I know there are other games that have done that since, the Battlefield games specifically. But
you're under fire, you can't spawn.
Yeah, she was dead and she squad spawned.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything specific with the trailer, I do want to talk about, I'm seeing these characters in the customization. The co-op mode they mentioned, co-op specific, combined arms. This seems like a separate mode. It's not war stories, it's not co-op campaign per se, it's not multiplayer PvP, it's a PvE co-op mode. And you said this might be their solution to having like a horde, because it is 4 players and it's randomly generated. And also they said the objectives are going to be different from time to time. It almost sounds like you're dropping into, Chalice Dungeon and Bloodborne, what do you want to say, Underground and Division. It's like these randomly generated objectives that you can drop into, presumably to get aesthetic loot and just to play with friends against, AI enemies.
It seems very similar to perhaps Onslaught mode from Bad Company 2.
I barely remember
which
that.
was a PvE environment. It's interesting, actually. One of the lead guys, David Goldfarb from Battlefield 3, went off and made Payday 2, which also had these like co-op PvE, like randomly generated things. But the most important part of that is that it is randomly generated. Mm-hmm. I loved the co-op in Battlefield 3. I actually thought it was a good campaign. And it'd be really cool. It's really cool to jump in with your buddies and not have the same experience every time. Now, we didn't see it, so I don't know. Maybe it's like a map where the objectives just move around.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a full-on. They mentioned something about story, so it could be really cool. Like if it's randomly generated stories, that'd be amazing. Mm-hmm. If it's just randomly generated, I don't know, like crates.
There's variety of
spawns.
objectives. Like this is a weird not deep cut, but a few years ago, did you remember Helldivers? Remember each time you dropped in, there was different take and hold this weapon placement, go clear out the enemies here, go. If there's a variety of objectives, so there's not maybe, if they're rotating through 6, it'll get old fast. But if you drop into, we don't know if we're gonna go to Russia, Norway, France, we don't know if we're gonna go to Italy, North Africa, we don't know if we're gonna have to take out this artillery weapon.
That could be really cool.
That'd be fun.
With an evac in the end.
Yeah.
He said actually you might have a point where you have to evac. He seemed to be implying that maybe you can lose and just choose to bail out.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm out of ammo, right? They're really, it seems like picking, I want to say Battle Royale, but just in general, the survival trend, right? Mm-hmm. Running out of ammo, supplies, being spread so thin, we got to evac now. No, let's do this one last, if it's like a breathing world almost in a way, right? I don't know. This is just me spitballing, but knowing when to call it quits, right? Like, we need to get out of here.
Well, it sounds like an XCOM campaign. Like, different objectives you're actually trying to accomplish, and you can evac if you think you're screwed. You can just get out.
Right.
But that sounds cool. I really do like the idea of that. They said war stories is their equivalent. Or no, was that what it was called in Battlefield 1? War stories?
Yeah. I mean, well,
They're doing that again.
That was the campaign.
Yeah,
right.
campaign.
Sorry, combined arms co-op. But they are going back to a campaign, like short story form with war stories. I don't know, like it'd be cool to see them. They're talking about going into uncharted territory. The character they showed close up was a Norwegian woman. So they'll talk about Norwegian resistance against the Nazis. Maybe there'll be like the British commandos that come in and do the raids on the coastline. I like that idea. I like the idea of it. That's what they try to do with Battlefield 1, explore, seldom explored areas, although Battlefield 1 is not usually in video games. But I like to see them go like, just show characters from places that we might not usually, like maybe the early Eastern Front, rather than when Russia's invading Germany. I'd like to see more in Russia. That'd be really cool because Call of Duty did a lot of that. I mean, they did that with Battlefield 1, but again, that was World War I. I'm curious to see what they do with war stories. I like those. I like the Gallipoli one. I didn't like the Italian one as much in the first one.
So I might get my facts wrong on this, and Aaron, you will have to help me out. But the idea I don't know how much we touched on it, but the idea is that throughout the DLC that's free that will be coming along are like different like factions or countries that are being entered, right? And with them come planes and iconic weapons and stuff like that. Like that is the case? Like will like Americans be brought in like a little bit later on? Or is that all going to be launched? Have they touched on that?
They haven't said what factions are going to be there. We know in here we at minimum saw British.
Yeah.
I think what they touched on a bit more with that seasonal content was like timed events. It sounds like they're following like the Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege model. Okay. I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that like a lot of the cool customization you get will probably come from those timed events.
Yeah, anniversary events, like holiday stuff. One thing they did, everything we saw today was European theater, concept art included.
Yeah.
Wasn't any Pacific.
No Pacific,
right.
Exactly.
Was that like, I wonder if they're talking about like trying to paint the whole war, right? Everybody on board, it'd be weird not to show a whole, the part of the war that lasted longest. I don't know, I'm curious if they're gonna do that.
They talked a lot about Norway, so the one specific example for the story was a story translated into English was Northern Lights.
Mm-hmm.
Norderlies.
Yeah.
Was about a resistance fighter they showed us like a little teaser where she drops into the water. She's wearing a pilot outfit. And they basically said that her story is about family. It's not about the larger war. Mm-hmm. So they said they wanted to focus on smaller stories. They said they went digging through archives to look for cool little tales that might tie into key moments in the war.
Yeah.
But aren't necessarily, nobody's like storming the beaches or, like, I don't know, Battle of the Bulge. I think they said they want to focus on small personal stories.
Right. And then like we did talk about towing. We talked about like vehicles. I'm trying to think of what we didn't cover.
I think the last thing.
If you want to show the last thing on that trailer. So there's actually more there. The V1 rocket scene, if we can pull that up.
I think it's a V2.
V2?
I think it's a V2.
This is like, they love this prone. It's funny actually. So there's a lot of animations. They showed us, they have a test map.
Oh, is that a glider?
So that's a V1 rocket.
Oh.
So there's a lot of.
You're right. It's a V1.
Yeah. Okay, so this is actually a thing in the game. This is part of it's called Squad Leader Radio. So it is the replacement for Commander Mode. Well, I don't want to say replacement because they didn't talk about Commander Mode, but it's the equivalent of Commander Mode. So going back to the idea of sticking in your squad has a squad leader, and that squad leader accumulates points as their squad plays the objectives and follows orders and basically plays well. The squad leader then can spend those points in the middle of a match to do things like call in the V1 rocket.
Oh.
Like more like OP attacks and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Some of the things that they were talking about sounded a lot like behemoths. So I think the squad leaders can now, and this is probably a counter to fortifications, the squad leaders can now call in powerful attacks as long as people are playing in their squad and playing objectives to counter things. Like they can call in giant tanks and like all kinds of stuff.
Oh, wow.
Ammo resupplies.
Danny Berlin, the creative director, during that stream said the term secret weapons numerous times to turn the tide of war. I wonder if that's in relation to that. I immediately thought behemoths when he said that, but it makes more sense that V1 rocket, I don't know, maybe like you said, calling a squad of tigers if you're on the German side, or I have no idea what else would be involved. But
Dogs.
That gives you more incentive to play the objective if you're accumulating points through that as well. Because yeah, in Battlefield 1, if you were a commander, you were just pretty much issuing commands, right? Saying, let's go take this objective, and if they took that objective, then you get points, if I remember correctly.
You could rake up experience.
Yeah.
That was about it.
In 3, you could kill people with resupply crates, which was kind of satisfying.
Calling it in?
Yeah. But that's all on the ground now. So now it's the squad leaders who have those powerful attacks.
Okay, cool. I don't know, are there any huge points we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about? There's a lot.
The last thing I can think of is explaining what Battlefield 1's mode operations is now called Grand Operations in Battlefield 5.
Yeah.
Which is like, a series of matches and modes that transition over a period of, I think, days is what they're calling it. You want to speak on that?
Yeah, so one of the things they talked about was Grand Operations that went for about 5 days, 4 to 5 days. And
not real time.
Sorry.
Not real time.
Okay. I didn't know if you meant like it's going to start on October 19th and you could play at any point. It's like 5 rounds in game.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's different from like a mixed mode server in that progress from one carries to the next. So they actually talked about it a bit in the stream, but you might have fewer tickets if you don't do so well in round 2, or you might have less ammo. They said you might actually, like if you really suck, you could actually get to the last day and have like 1 mag left in your gun.
It's like Stalingrad.
The example was like if on day 4 you have 1 mag left in your pistol, day 5 starts with 1 mag left in your pistol. Basically.
Yeah.
So you're just wasting all of your ammo on like suppressing someone that's not even there, and they're like, shit, I have 2 rounds left.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of you guys have nailed it in that they have not talked about a battle royale, which makes me think it's probably not going to be in this game, but they have channeled the spirit of battle royale in a way with a lot of their mechanics that might appeal to battle royale fans.
Yeah, like the idea, when I think of battle royale, is like I kill an enemy, what does he have, right? And a lot of that is just loot management. Like, I got a clip left, this guy's got a different gun, it ain't what I have, but my odds are better with this. So now I'm sniping. Like, I'm changing my exact play style based on, environmental stuff as well, like going to an objective. Like, am I continuing my loadout, or am I gonna like ditch it and do something else?
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
And that'll be Grand Operations. And like you said, the progress between rounds or days in the game, whether it be 4 or 5, is continuous. And then presumably each day would have a different objective for the attacking team, different things to take, different things to control.
Yeah, like I think what we heard, whether or not you heard something similar, was that maybe like day 3 would be an airborne drop.
Yeah.
As a counter to what events preceded in day 2, right? Like it seems to be more locked in, where it's not like, I feel like with operations prior, where it's, yes, something happened in the previous map or mode, but the slate is kind of wiped clean. It seems like there's still now a losing side. Like, you're taking consequences and ramifications of what happened the day before. Like, that seems neat, where you can look at a span of 5 days and be like, there's more of an interlocking, or like a story involved. Where like we were down, then we came back. Like,
I'm even thinking of Carentan. Like, day 1 would be Allies taking the town. Day 2 would be defending against the German counterattack. Day 3 would be finally pushing the battalion out of the area or something. That'd be
totally. Yeah. Or like the idea that like you made a grand. I said grand. A really last ditch effort to take a town successfully. You do.
Yeah.
But what happens in the next day? Well, you're short on supplies, or like you ran out of ammo. Now you have to like defend and hold up and like pray that the next team isn't gonna like stomp you hard. I don't know.
And I'm excited for the mode because that's what my one thing before the stream started. I was saying I want Battlefield to go back to the big picture, and if you're thinking 2 days in advance, then that's big picture. I like that idea.
Yeah.
You're thinking supplies over a whole campaign, not just this firefight.
I mean, you might get to the end of a round that you're about to lose and and conserve your ammo for the next round.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see people strategically play.
Switch to your cricket bat. Yeah.
Your ninja sword that you guys saw.
Anything else we want to touch on?
Yeah. One thing they talked about was their going back to their fluid movement system. So as a player, you're always in first person, and your shooting is not impacted. But what you see from people around you are people doing things like slipping and sliding on the mud. You'll see people run up and like throw a shoulder into a wall. When people get into water, they'll like start high stepping. So there's a lot of stuff that's invisible to you, but will like help your immersion because you'll see your buddies doing it.
That's gotta be tough to work with like hitboxes. Like if someone sees you run into a wall, but really on your screen you didn't. I wonder how they're gonna account for that from the other person like shooting at you. I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on.
Sure, it'll look good.
Yeah. I think there's the bigger danger, and this has always been Battlefield, is the perception of what you think happened versus what happened.
Yeah.
Like, Battlefield's had some latency issues where you die and you're like, I was clearly behind that wall before I died.
For like the peeker's advantage, and Siege comes from too.
Yeah. Let me flip through some notes really quick just to make sure I haven't, because like there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, you were on like an hour phone call yesterday.
Yeah, it was actually like a 3 hour. So they talked for half an hour thing here, and we were on for 3 hours. They talked a lot about. So they talked about 1942 being their big influence. I'm just gonna hit some random points here. They talked about dynamic weather being in the game still. They talked about amping up destruction. Let's see, we talked about customization. Gun recoil, which we talked about earlier, where you shoot is where the bullets go. Sorry, Rob, that was the V1 JB2 rocket. So
it was a JB2 model.
That's where you were getting the two.
I get so confused with
okay,
the two. Yeah.
So specifically,
you're both right.
You were right.
No, I was not. I looked up. V2 is it just looks like a giant like Looney Tunes ass rocket. It's nothing like what we're looking at.
I mean, it is really cool how people get thrown, like Bad Company. Like you get all that dirt and the concussions.
Even like Battlefield 1 had that really cool aesthetic, right? Of just like mud and grit and stuff getting on your gun. Like one moment, some dude like blew up in his face and there was blood all over his MG. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So the commander abilities were the rocket, supply drop, smoke screen barrage, heavy weapon battle pickup, and these sounded like the behemoths: the Churchill Crocodile, which is the British tank, and the
Sturminger?
Sturmtiger?
Cool.
Sturmtiger.
Sturm.
That's the German one.
I'm assuming there'll be more. That's the ones you heard about.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just more specifics.
Cool.
I am really curious about, we did see a number of weapons in the game, but I'm curious how far into prototypes they will go.
Yeah.
Like that is one thing, like how far, because they were jets by the end of World War II. I wonder if they're going to go that far, or if that's part of their like season of content.
I think that's down the road. I mean, you look at any game, even Battlefield 1942. The expansions were Road to Rome, and then Secret Weapons of World War II, which had freaking helicopters, which that was not there. But yes,
that's
the
like
end of the war had the the German Messerschmitt 262 and the British like Meteor. There were jets towards the end. So yeah, it would make sense for that to be like a later update or something like that.
Fly jets.
Yeah.
Other small mechanics, so there's no more auto spotting, they said. I think Battlefield 1's tried to crack down on spotting. They actually limited the range in recent DLC, so you can't just like look at a hillside and spam spot and see where everybody is. So there's no auto spotting, that's limited.
That's cool.
Jumping.
Right.
Dolphin diving. So like you mentioned, you might be able to run and like slide down a stairway backwards while you're shooting.
Get up, Trinity. Get up.
Get total Trinity moment.
Get up.
So they said you can jump from the apex and down. So like if you leap, you can't shoot in the first part of your jump, but you can do the second part. So maybe dolphin diving will make a comeback. I hope not.
For people who don't know what dolphin diving is,
that's jumping and then going prone. You could do that.
Gotcha.
You could do that in Modern Warfare 2. Was that like a big deal?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Jumping out windows, shooting.
That makes sense. I just didn't know that term. It's kind of like drop shopping, but then drop shotting, but getting back up.
Yeah.
Talking about the Matrix, yeah, just like running and doing these like dives.
He's beginning to believe. Gotcha. Sweet.
Next thing is gonna be barrel rolls. Anyway, sidetrack. Keep going.
Can you? Never mind.
This whole thing's a sidetrack.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. They said they're trying to get away from revive trains where like you just kill somebody, you kill a whole squad except for the medic, and then they just all revive each other. But then like a sentence later, they're like, oh, anybody can revive anybody. So I don't really know how that fits together.
I love that.
But maybe it's like when squads get wiped, everybody gets kicked to orbit, and that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But they're trying to avoid that frustrating moment where you have a great plan, you kill everybody except for one person, and you die, and then they just revive everybody.
There's got to be just like a longer respawn.
Yeah, cool.
So yeah, something like that where you again the incentive to revive someone is very heavy-handed, opposed to like you're like 40 feet away from me, I could get back in quicker by respawning, right? Like I think that's something they're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Just to dial back, you mentioned like the Dolphin Dive, but there's also no auto vaulting, right? Or auto mantling. So you have to like, I would imagine like almost double jump or time it correctly to like jump over a fence or climb up on a ledge.
Trip and face plant if you don't.
Right.
They didn't. I'm not sure exactly what they were getting at there. I think the issue was that maybe people getting stuck on things.
Oh.
Or like, I don't know, what they were saying was they were trying to make more fluid movement. So you don't have those awkward moments where you're like banging on a window trying to get out.
I misread that then, okay.
But no, you're correct. There's no auto vaulting. So you have to press a button for it to happen.
Got it.
So maybe they were worried about the fluid movement system where you like accidentally hit a window and go through it.
The drunk effect. Yeah. Whoops.
Wednesdays.
3-story building.
Hang on, guys. I need a do-over.
Yeah.
But yeah, like in general, that movement system seems really cool.
Okay.
Dang, I think that's it. I think
Damn. Time.
So that's a combination of what we saw in the trailer, what they said on stream, and a ton of what you heard yesterday. If you joined us today, thank you so much. If you're on GameSpot or YouTube or Twitch, we will have more on the game from what we know so far. Dave Jewett in the UK office was at that event that we just watched on the stream. So we'll have more coming out. I'm sure you'll have much more to talk about, Aaron. I don't know, maybe we'll do a few like videos or something when the time comes. And then of course, E3 is, what, 3 weeks away or something, if that? And we'll all be down there in Los Angeles and up here in San Francisco covering all the press conferences and hopefully seeing more Battlefield 5.
Absolutely.
By that, I mean, we definitely will. But thank you so much for joining today, Rob and Aaron. Thanks for joining. I had fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah.
I'm pretty excited for it. October 19th, is that correct? And then and then Deluxe Edition you could play October 16th, and then October 11th if you have EA Access. That's the Play First trial for Battlefield 5 on Xbox One, PC, and PS4. All 3 platforms on October 11th. Great. Thank you so much for joining, and stick around GameSpot for more from Battlefield 5. We'll see you then.